truce between Israel and Hamas is now in its fifth day and has been extended at least till tomorrow. Hamas is promising to release more civilian hostages to delay a renewal of Israeli airstrikes that have pounded the Gaza Strip since the Hamas attack on Israel October 7th. Close to 70 Israeli and international hostages have been released since Friday, with 150 Palestinian prisoners freed in return. For the very latest on all of this, let's go live to our Luke Shrago, who is in Tel Aviv at the moment. Luke, first of all, what's the latest on the hostage release and the eventual ceasefire today?
Well, 48 more hours of truce for the Israeli hostages who are still being held by Hamas. The truce now in its fifth day, with some 11 people being released late on Monday evening, 9 children and 2 women. Now that brings to a total of around about 50 Israelis, with around 19 hostages of other nationalities that have been released. Now it's thought that there are around about 160 of some 240 prisoners still being held in Gaza. They have largely stayed out of the public eye once released. They've been brought to hospitals across Israel for checkups and for psychological evaluation before being released to their families. Now, as I've said, they've largely kept away from the media and away from cameras, though some information has started to trickle out and emerge about the conditions in which they were held. It's been told that not all of them were held in these Hamas tunnels running under Gaza. Some were held in buildings and in houses, saying that initially, at least, that they were in relatively good conditions, that they were being well fed, but that as Israel's military offensive continued, that the situation did deteriorate quite badly for them, with food becoming somewhat scarce, people sleeping in chairs and on the floor. Now, one woman who was released, elderly, she was released in critical condition because she wasn't able to get the medicines that she had been needing after she was kidnapped on October the 7th. Now that's led to questions here in Israel over aid organizations who were in contact with Hamas and why that situation wasn't checked, why they weren't able to get her those medications. Now, here in Tel Aviv, of course, you can see around me at the square that has become, it's the square of the hostages, it's being called here. You can see the displays around me. It's a sign of the solidarity that remains incredibly high with every release of hostages as they slowly start to emerge from Gaza, increasing the pressure at large across Israel, with people urging the government to bring everyone else home.
Right. So, Luke, the ceasefire has already been extended once since it began on Friday. How long is it likely to be extended to make sure those hostages get home after it expires tomorrow?
Well, that's a question for the Israeli authorities. They are currently studying a new list of hostages that could well be released later on Tuesday. Now, according to Israeli authorities, they've said that the truce could in fact be extended indefinitely for as long as hostages continue to be released. They've been saying that they'll extend it by 24 hours for every 10 hostages that are released. But it does have to be said that they are determined to continue with their means to end Hamas. They refuse to entertain any notion that Hamas can rest after the outcome of the current conflict. And this even as Palestinian prisoners continue to be released, about 150 so far. Now, attention's also turning to the nature of the hostages. So far, it's been women and children. No men released so far. The question is going to happen as to what might happen with negotiations that might prove to be a little bit more tricky. Now, as part of this deal, there's also aid been going to Gaza. According to the UN, about 240 trucks a day, which is said to be largely insufficient for humanitarian needs there. The UN looking at the possibility of boosting aid to Gaza to around 400 trucks a day if possible. Now, there's also US aid inbound to the Sinai, where the first of 3 aircraft due to arrive on Tuesday, with pressure coming both from the United States and Qatar on Israel that should it in fact continue its military operation, that it not push Gazan civilians out of the south as it has done in the north. Secretary of State Antony Blinken due for another visit in Israel at the end of the week.